If a human being can be turned into data, can that data call itself alive? In Cyberpunk 2077, this is more than just a hypothetical question. It happens to Johnny Silverhand. Johnny was the famed guitarist of the band Samurai and a terrorist who committed what was essentially Cyberpunk's 9/11 when he blew up Arasaka Tower in 2023, dying in the process. But yet over 50 years later, he comes back, but not in his physical body, instead in the mind of another person. The game calls the digital copy of Johnny's consciousness an engram, but that makes you think, if Johnny can grow as a person, feel and change, like what happens in Cyberpunk 2077, does that make him a new person? When Johnny was brought back as data, what we see isn't him being resurrected. It's clear that it's replication. His memories, thoughts, feelings, and personalities were uploaded and stored using artificial intelligence. But a lot like how a photo just captures what you see in that moment, the engram only starts as the moment that was captured. Over time, though, this can change. This version of Johnny argues with V, can form his own opinions, and feels guilty for things. Completely new things that the original man never felt. So if a copy can grow past what the original source is, it's not really a copy anymore. It's its own consciousness experiencing life in a completely different body. If a person is defined by their memory and personality, then the new Johnny would be considered Johnny Silverhand, as he thinks like Johnny, remembers what Johnny remembers, and acts how Johnny acted. But if a person is defined by their experience as a physical person, then he wouldn't be considered Johnny Silverhand. John Locke once said, "As far as this consciousness can be extended backwards to any past action or thought, so far reaches the identity of that person. It is the same self now as it was then, and 'tis the same self with the present one that now reflects on it." Which is essentially arguing that whatever a person can remember is the extent of their identity. But when that identity starts making new memories, when does it stop being the same person and become someone new entirely? If Johnny's consciousness can become something beyond the consciousness that it came from, then maybe identity isn't something that we have, but instead something that we do. The ghost of Johnny Silverhand shows us how being human isn't linked to the brain, but instead it could be linked to the ability to grow, remember, and change. In Helldivers 2, the Helldivers are born into battle. Each soldier, a clone of the last. In every fight for freedom, each Helldiver fighting for democracy and liberty for Super Earth. But below the battles, there's a question hiding right in front of you. If the soldiers are told what to do and don't have any choice or critical thought of their own, if every order they follow is told by a system that controls their beliefs, then do they have freedom at all? Super Earth calls itself a world of freedom. Its government says that it brings liberty to every planet that it touches, claiming itself to be a democracy. But a managed democracy is not democracy. It's control disguised as choice. Every broadcast, slogan, piece of media, and propaganda tells the Helldivers the same message: obey, serve, and call it freedom. The Helldivers don't decide what's right, they're told what's right. It's like freedom without the freedom to think. When the player beats the game, they feel like heroes. They kill bugs, fight automatons, liberate planets, and believe that they're doing something good as the character that they're playing. But Helldivers has a deep underlying message beneath that. Super Earth began killing the bugs just for fuel, despite them being fully conscious beings who did nothing wrong, and they enslaved cyborg people, resulting in each of them finding their own way to retaliate. That's what makes Helldivers so smart. It's not just satire of authoritarianism, it shows how easy it is to accept false morals when dressed in the colors of patriotism. America. The Helldivers fight for freedom of democracy, but they're told the only way that they can get that is through complete obedience. But really, that's a paradox. You can't freely think, but also blindly follow orders. You can't question authority while also existing for it. Freedom that requires you to surrender your mind is not freedom. So, do the Helldivers have freedom? Probably not, but if you think about it, neither do we. We deploy into our day, we go to school, we go to work, we do all that stuff, we follow objectives, and we fight for a democracy that we never chose to be in. In 1967, the Beatles released the album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And inside the lyrics of that album is a story that I don't believe is understood enough. They introduced the world to the story of Billy Shears, a musician who met a girl named Lucy, experimented with drugs, and saw a new world through hallucinations. But the story brings up a question. If Billy Shears saw a world that no one else could see, does that make it real? Or did he discover a reality that only he has access to? George Berkeley once spoke on subjective idealism. It's the idea that reality only exists as it's perceived, that the world is not real, but instead a creation of the mind observing it. When Billy takes LSD, his mind doesn't stop working. It starts painting. He can see things like Lucy floating in the sky with kaleidoscope eyes. To him, it's happening. So what do we mean when we say something is a hallucination? If an experience happens to you, can we really say that it isn't real just because no one else saw it? Most of what people call real is an agreement. We agree that a table is solid, we agree that time moves forward, and we agree that blue is blue, but only because most people perceive it that way. When Billy sees color changing and time dissolving, he's no longer in the agreement, but he's not broken, he's just perceiving things differently. Every hallucination that Billy sees is not real outside of his mind, but instead is just something that he sees in his mind. But even though the experience that he had was inside his mind, the effect on him was outside of his mind. He comes back from his trips changed. His songs sound different and his view on life has expanded. If something happens to you inside of your mind that can permanently change who you are in the real world, then that experience has real consequences. So is the world that you see while on psychedelics real? Maybe it's just as real as the real world. We just see things through different lenses. Reality isn't what's in front of you, it's what's experienced. Billy didn't escape from the real world when he went on drugs. He expanded his world.